I never thought I'd be sitting here at 68, telling you about becoming a millionaire. 3 years ago, I was declaring bankruptcy, selling everything I owned just to keep a roof over my head. But sometimes, life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. Let me take you back to that cold February morning in 2022. I remember standing in my empty kitchen, the echo of my footsteps bouncing off bare walls. The moving truck had just left with the last of my furniture. At 65, I was starting over with nothing but 2 suitcases and a heart full of shame. My late husband's medical bills had consumed our life savings, and the small business we'd built together for 30 years crumbled under debt I couldn't manage alone. I sat on the floor of that empty house and cried like I hadn't cried since I was a child. Not just tears of sadness, but tears of pure terror. How do you rebuild your life when Social Security barely covers rent? How do you explain to your grandchildren why grandma can't afford Christmas presents anymore? The apartment I moved into was a studio in a neighborhood I'd driven through, but never imagined living in. The walls were thin, the carpet stained, and my neighbors were mostly people half my age struggling just like me. But you know what? Those young people taught me something I'd forgotten in my comfortable suburban life. They taught me about resilience, about finding joy in small things, about community. My neighbor Maria, a single mother working 2 jobs, would knock on my door with extra soup. "Mrs. Helen," she'd say, "I made too much again." We both knew she hadn't, but she let me keep my dignity while making sure I ate. In return, I started watching her 8-year-old son after school. Sitting at that tiny kitchen table, helping him with homework, I remembered something I'd lost in all those years of running a business and managing finances. I remembered how much I loved teaching. That's when the idea hit me. I'd been a high school English teacher for 15 years before my husband and I started our printing business. What if I could teach again, but differently? What if I could reach people online? I spent my last $100 on a used laptop from a pawn shop. My fingers, arthritic and uncertain, fumbled over keys I hadn't used for anything but paying bills in years. I watched YouTube tutorials until my eyes burned, learning about cameras and lighting and something called SEO. My first video was terrible. I was nervous, stumbling over words, and the audio was so bad you could barely hear me. But I talked about something I knew: how to write a compelling story. The response was nothing. 0 views for 3 days. I almost gave up. But then Maria's son asked me, "Mrs. Helen, did you really put yourself on the computer?" His excitement reminded me why I'd started. I wasn't doing this for fame or money initially. I was doing it because I had something to share. I kept making videos. Stories about resilience, about starting over, about finding purpose after loss. I shared my own journey, the bankruptcy, the fear, the small victories. Slowly, people started watching. Comments began trickling in from other women my age who felt invisible, forgotten, written off by a world obsessed with youth. "Thank you for showing me I'm not alone," wrote Patricia from Ohio. "Your story gives me hope," said Margaret from Texas. These weren't just comments. They were lifelines thrown between women who understood each other's struggles. 6 months in, something shifted. My subscriber count grew from dozens to hundreds to thousands. Companies started reaching out, wanting to sponsor my videos. I learned about affiliate marketing, online courses, brand partnerships, but more importantly, I learned about my own worth again. The breakthrough came when I created a course called Rewriting Your Story After 50. I poured everything I knew about storytelling, about resilience, about starting over into 8 modules. I priced it at $97, thinking maybe a few dozen people would buy it. In the first week, 500 people enrolled. In the first month, over 2,000. The money started flowing in ways I'd never imagined. Not just from the course, but from speaking engagements, book deals, consulting work with other content creators. Last month, I hit my first $1 million in total earnings since starting this journey. But here's what surprised me most. The money wasn't the real prize. The real prize was getting my life back. It was discovering that at 68, I could learn new skills, build new relationships, create something meaningful. It was realizing that my age wasn't a limitation. It was my superpower. I had decades of experience, stories, wisdom that younger creators couldn't offer. I still live simply. I moved to a nicer apartment, but nothing fancy. I help Maria with her son's college fund now. I visit my grandchildren more often, and yes, Christmas is covered. But the biggest change is how I see myself. I'm not a woman past her prime. I'm a woman who's just hitting her stride. If you're watching this and you're facing your own February morning, your own empty kitchen moment, I want you to know something. Your story isn't over. The chapters you've lived, the heartbreak, the loss, the mistakes, even the bankruptcy, they're not endings. They're the foundation for what comes next. You have something unique to offer this world. Your perspective, your experience, your hard-won wisdom. These are gifts that only come with time. Don't let anyone tell you it's too late to start over, to dream new dreams, to build something beautiful from the ashes of what was. I'm 68 years old, and I'm just getting started. What about you? What story are you ready to write?